Superintendent Chris Flanagan of the Radnor Township Police Department, Delaware County, Pennsylvania. Community is right there with those top priority projects. Our interaction with the community, such as words as community policing and other things, are staples of the police department. So we need the people to feel safe by the police. We need to feel that they have interaction and comment ability on how we do things, and stay in tune with what our local government. We're run as a township, a Class A township, and we are have Board of Commissioners that handle all of the governing on the local level. And then, of course, police answer to state and federal law as well.
Aid panel, we call it YAP, is a program for juveniles, anyone under the age of 18 that's a township resident. If they're cited with a minor, what we call summary violations, underage drinking, park violations. So, for example, this is a PSA for any of the college students that are watching, because we run into this issue a lot of Fenimore Woods with some Eastern and Cabrini students. You can't be in the park after dark. So it's a very small thing, but it is one of our township ordinances, and it's one that we follow. So if a student or someone under the age of 18 is cited with a township ordinance, and it can be something that minor, we have this diversionary program where you sit before a panel of volunteers. They're everyone from people involved in religious organizations here in Radnor Townships, parents of kids who have gone through the program, so they're embedded, they have a reason why they want to be there, and we have some senior citizens who are involved because they want to stay connected to their community. And I think there's 5 or 6 people on the panel, and you go in and you explain what happened. They'll have a copy of the police report, and they'll see the officer's observations from that evening. And then they decide a plan. So if it's underage drinking, they might have you write about alcohol and, what it does to your body, maybe drinking and driving and the effects of that. So an event. So just this last Sunday, we had an event in the Garrett Hill section of the township where there was some costume for Halloween. There was some costume contest as well as pumpkin carving, and they were there just monitoring the crowd, helping people where to go, where to park, and with the new COVID-19 restrictions, they were also making sure that people were wearing masks, not enforcing anything, but just gentle reminders. So they're extra eyes and ears for the police department, and that is all a part of our community policing model.
I think that that having that misconduct investigation would be really important, and that's probably primarily because part of my job is helping take complaints from the public. So I think that's really important, but I think everything that's on this list and this document is super important, and I hope it gets considered by City Council. Part of what we do with the complaints is sometimes we'll monitor them, which involves going to all of the interviews that happen for the complaint that happen at internal affairs. So I will go and monitor those. So sometimes I have interviews to sit in on. And that's sort of primarily what my job and responsibilities are. People knowing that we exist and that we're a place that you can file complaints would be my hope. And as the future organization grows and this new department will hopefully have more resources to market and get our name out there so that Philadelphians know we exist and we are a department that can help provide oversight.
Auntie.
Please.
So when I think about encounters with the police, one thing that comes to mind, a very negative experience that I had is, I guess it was about 10 years ago or so. I was going through like a pretty rough patch in my life. So I was seeing a therapist on like a weekly basis. I remember I had a session with her. It was an evening. And I was having a really rough day. She was concerned about me, about my well-being and my safety, and she thought it would be in my best interest to have me go to the hospital. So I had driven myself, so she called an ambulance, and with the ambulance, it's standard for police to come to be dispatched along with the ambulance. So about 3 medics and 2 or 3 police officers arrived, and I was really upset. I didn't want to go to the hospital. I was freaked out. So I started crying, and one of the officers, unfortunately, he started telling me that I was pathetic, I was a child, what was wrong with me, like, what is my problem? And he just was so demeaning and so belittling, and it made like a horrible situation 10 times worse. I'll never forget the way he made me feel. I've never felt so disrespected or like belittled in my life. When the police come, they're supposed to help you, and especially in a situation where I was very vulnerable, I would hope that they would be supportive and there to assist you. And he did the complete opposite. He made me feel even more scared, uncomfortable, and completely terrible. So it's really disappointing, and I don't even know why or that could have ever happened. But it was I feel like he really abused his power in that instance.
Was extreme force used in your situation?
Yes, after I did not comply to leave with them, the officers dragged me out and pinned me onto a stretcher. There needs to be disciplinary action taken for abuses of power. Also, I think there just needs to be more training, especially when it comes to sensitive issues like mental health. I think a lot of it is just a lack of training and understanding what the individual is going through. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, they end up escalating the situation instead of making it better.
No.
He was not disciplined, as far as I'm aware. But we did end up filing a lawsuit against the police department, which we did win. I would have hoped that he would have received some sort of disciplinary action, or at least hopefully they receive some more mental health training at that department.
What do you?
I think honestly that the police force in general in the entire country, I think it really needs to be kind of reassessed, and really some really big changes need to be put in place as far as when dealing with minority groups, when dealing with individuals with mental health. There's just so many stigmas and prejudices, I think, that are going into their practices, and a lot of lack of understanding. And I think that needs to be addressed on a broad scale. I think it starts with, like I said, putting new measures in place to address police brutality, to address their different practices that are considered acceptable right now that really are not, and that are very harmful. So I think it just comes down to there's a lot more training that needs to be done. And I think also they need a lot more, I would say, when hiring or a police officer, I think they need to look a lot more into interview them a lot more based off of how they view people of different races or ethnic groups, how they view people with mental illness. That should be considered when hiring a police officer, because if you're taking those prejudices to work with you every day, that's obviously a pretty big problem.